party's back. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was announced as a main game in one of 8 at EVO 2023 this year. In August, in Las Vegas, in the US, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is going to get its shine. One of 8 main games with a $25,000 minimum pot for the game. Every top player is going to be there. My reaction when I saw it was just disbelief. I couldn't believe it. The game's actually coming back after a 5-year absence from EVO main stage. Every top player is going to be there. Everybody who's loved Marvel in any capacity over the last 12 years is going to be coming back out to play that game at EVO. If they're playing fighting games, I'm sure they're going to be entering that game come EVO. The money's just too good. The hype is too good. The excitement around it is just too much, isn't it? I absolutely cannot wait for this. Obviously, I'm trying to get out there myself. We'll see what happens with that. But it's just absolutely insane. But one thing that I did notice as it came up, when Marvel was shown on the screen itself, it had underneath it copyright Marvel 2023, and I just got thinking, it's probably just required, right? Legally speaking, they probably have to get permission from Marvel, or maybe just to be on the safe side, they get endorsement from them for the sake of the IPs being used. Maybe, you know, they have to. Surely that's all it is, right? But maybe, just maybe, what if they announce Marvel vs. Capcom 4? What if they announce it? What if they announce it when every Marvel player is in the room at EVO, all eyes on Marvel, and the entire FGC just explodes? It blows up. Twitter off the bloody chain. Absolutely mental. It's insane to me that this is even a slight possibility. Now, I don't want to go getting around, you know, like the tinfoil hats out and go like crazy conspiracies. Don't be going in the MvC4 Discord and asking people about Marvel 4. But they specifically didn't put Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite in. It is Ultimate, not the release of, when was it, 2017, 2016, Infinite. To be fair, that game isn't probably the proudest achievement of Marvel. There was a huge public backlash to that game, and it seems that Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom has far outlived its successor in its lifespan, in its draw online, in its appeal at events, and the amount of entrants it gets. Ultimate seems to be the one that, I suppose, if there's a game that Marvel can be proud of from the last decade and a half, well, it's Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So I do realise that Ultimate was called a classic game. So a classic game potentially meaning that then they're going to have a classic game next year and a classic game the year after, and they'll rotate these and have different games, and Marvel just happens to be the one they chose first. But what if there is something more to it, and the reason they chose it as the first classic game is because something big, something enormous is coming. Just underneath the surface, it's lurking there for us. Now, thinking about this, the excitement every time I think about and talk about MvC4, the possibility of it, I get so excited. It's the possibility. It just riles me up. However, the question is, and this might sound a little bit odd here, do I want Marvel vs. Capcom 4? Do I want Marvel vs. Capcom 4? And I ponder this question. I've thought about this question for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years maybe. I don't know if I necessarily do. Now, hear me out on this. I love Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I've been playing it since the beginning. I got Marvel vs. Capcom 3 when it came out. I dabbled in that game, but I didn't really gel with it so much. But when Ultimate came out, I was hardcore. It came out and I stopped going to university. I basically became someone who lived in the little study we had at uni, and I just didn't leave. I just started doing stupid stuff on YouTube, like putting together videos. I had like a camcorder like on top of all of my uni books to make it high enough to record the television. Like these were old days before the technology came. And I love the game. To me, it is the perfect game. The perfect game. And not just perfect fighting game, because fighting games are a huge thing that lots of people love, all sorts of fighting games. And don't get me wrong, I've dabbled in a few. I really enjoyed Street Fighter and Street Fighter 4, played a lot of Street Fighter 5, played a lot of Dragon Ball Fighters. But to me, I think I'm not that big of a fighting game fan overall. And what I do love is Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It is the perfect game of any genre for me. And part of what made it so good, let me see it here on screen now, is the fact that it didn't have patches. It didn't have anything more than early patches in Ultimate's life. After that, cold turkey, nothing. So it had a chance to develop further. But MvC4, in that regard, it's going to be different. If it does exist, perhaps it would be simpler. Perhaps it would be maybe slowed down. So two things there to make it more accessible for the community, for people from outside the community, and bring in more interest and talent to it, to sort of like stir up wider, broader communities and make fighting games accessible in a way maybe they haven't been before. That seems to have been the trend over the last decade, just simplification. I suppose even further than beyond that, you could probably argue that all fighting games have just gradually had this trend of simplification to some degree. And possibly it'd be less broken. And at that point, if a Marvel vs. 4 came out like that, maybe then I'd understand what it felt like to have been a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 veteran when 3 came out. Because I remember there was a lot of upset from people, and I didn't understand it because I thought this game's sick. This game looks so cool, and they were just like, "No, man, this ain't Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This ain't what it's meant to be." I remember seeing videos like from veterans like that, and I thought, those guys are just salty. Maybe I'd be that salty guy when 4 came out. I'm sure I wouldn't. I'm much more positive than that. I'm much more open. I probably wouldn't voice my concerns in such a way. I'd probably give the game a solid year, even if I wasn't too happy with it, as long as it didn't get the infinite treatment upon release. The game just wasn't anything like what I wanted it to be. It was not what I wanted it to be. But I won't speak on Infinite in any more depth than that. So when Marvel vs. Capcom came out, when it was being promoted by Seth Killian as Capcom's Battle Director, I think that was his title. Can you imagine that being your job title, Battle Director? That's so cool, man. He emphasized just how focused on making a game Capcom was, where training mode was just as fun as playing the game itself. So you have this beautiful mix of discovery and then wanting to go and play it and take it into versus mode or online into player matches and have your discoveries be like the thing that destroys the other opponent. So it's this thing where you always had this idea with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that just sitting underneath the surface, right there underneath the surface, was this broken discovery just waiting to be made. All the mind-bogglingly broken stuff was there if you went looking. If you were an explorer in training mode, you could go and sit in training mode and discover the dirtiest of the dirtiest. And that was so exciting to me, and tons of people over the years have loved that feature about Marvel. However, I can't see Marvel vs. Capcom 4 coming out in the year 2023, or from here onwards, without receiving regular updates, regular patches. And that means that, if it's this seasonal gameplay, if we're having characters released over the course of a season, if we're having everything shown and then critiqued, and then people talking about how this is too broken and this is too strong and my character's so weak, please buff, and then new patch notes coming out every half a season and a big update with a big change and a new DLC character who's broken as hell coming out. I mean, we've all seen what happened with, say, for example, another team fighter like Dragon Ball FighterZ, where basically the rapid changing of that game meant there was variety. Yes, we saw different characters at the top, but every new patch and every new DLC character brought a new Horseman of the Apocalypse to moan about, to complain about, and then something else came, and then some other character who used to be absolutely top tier was made into a worthless like shell of what they used to be, a husk. And I don't know if I'd enjoy that for Marvel vs. Capcom 4. And obviously they're a different developer than Arc Sys. They're a different developer. Maybe it wouldn't be like that. Maybe it would be more measured and very, very sort of like subtle touches. But I don't know. I really don't know what it would be. Different developers have different ideas about what it is to patch a game and why you would do it, the intent behind it. But I ultimately feel that, I think realistically, those balance changes would mess with what is a foundation of fighting games, and that is that discovery I just talked about there. part of what made Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 great was its permanence. You knew that was it. Let's just get on with developing our play. And you got to remember that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, and Dark Phoenix was absolutely broke as hell. Dante was ridiculous. Magneto was top tier as hell. But they hadn't even like plumbed the depths of it. Wolverine had a fully invincible Berserker Slash. It could travel the whole screen through everything. It didn't matter what it was. And all sorts of stuff was broken. And then they patched the hell out of it come Ultimate and brought 10 new characters in. And at the start of Ultimate, we then saw Wesker. Wesker was the best character to pick in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for like the first 12 months nearly. People were talking about Dark Virgil later than Dark Wesker. Dark Virgil didn't exist until Shady K made it a thing. Dark Virgil wasn't a thing. People thought Virgil was bad. People thought Virgil, nah, he's not that good. He whiff his normals, he can't cancel them on whiff. You have to spend bar to cancel things. It's just no good. He's not very good. His damage isn't that great. His meter build's not that great. He's not a good character, Virgil. He's no Phoenix, even though she's been nerfed still. But Dark Wesker, people were talking about the X Factor 4. Dark Wesker was insane. Every team, Team EG, you got your Ricky Ortiz, Justin Wong playing them. You got Chris G playing Wesker. Like everybody had a Wesker around about that time. Wesker was absolutely bonkers. Everybody was sticking him in third position. Had an OTG assist. OTG assists were all the rage when Ultimate came out. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. You look at that now and you think they had no idea. They'd already been playing the game from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Ultimate came out, and they had a good understanding of how the game worked at that point, but they had no idea what they were talking about. It took another 12 months for Morrigan to even be established as a threat at all, for Chris G to become something with her after Dominion showed him the way. It's so crazy to me that things like Morrigan were completely, like, nobody knew. Nobody knew. And if they said they knew, they're friggin' lying. They're lying. Things like that, like these things take time to develop. TAC Infinites, they weren't a new thing for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It wasn't a secret discovery of Ultimate. They existed in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 vanilla. Like, they weren't new, except no one discovered them. It took 2 years or so before even a whiff of those came, before people were like, what the hell happened? What the hell happened there? Why did that come? What? Why did that work? And then someone found something else, and then a Trish Infinites came, and then it blew up, and it became who has one of these, and then all sorts of testing happened, and the game developed around that, and it changed the shape of the game, and it changed the viability of tons of different characters, because now they could have an infinite for the kill and gain loads of meter, and even if they have bad damage, still manage to live within the meta. So Firebrand became stronger, and lots of characters who weren't viable before had an opportunity to become viable playing something like Doom Virgil. There's a lot of interesting developments that came, and it's a matter of it happened because the time was there to explore these unfathomable depths of these characters. Nova's more recent prominence within the game, you see in the Parsec here, the rise of Mundank and Liberal Terminator, and the strength of Coach Steve just getting stronger and stronger. Like the development of gameplay with these characters and strategies to fight Phoenix, to fight your Virgils and your Zeros and your Morrigans. Like, strategies get developed over a long period of time, to the point where what we see now is a beautiful game that looks nothing like it did 5 years ago, even that short of a time ago. It looks completely different. So that's it. On top of developing all that play, like, I know I love Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I know I love it, and I really don't know if Marvel vs. Capcom 4 could top it. Could you make a game better than Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3? Can you honestly say you trusted the developer in this day and age to make a game that's better than what we have right now with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3? And if on the unlikely chance that one day it does exist, and Marvel vs. Capcom 4 does exist, and it doesn't top Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I know, and this is something that makes me feel a little bit sad here, that it can only take away from the players playing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The game that I love with all of my passion, that I've devoted so many days and weeks and years to, it can only take away from the player base remaining for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that's a feeling that I don't know I'm ready for. It's kind of like that feeling of, well, I love my dog, but I know that one day I'm gonna have to put her down. Like, well, that day will come eventually. It might be a few years from now. It might be 10 years from now. I don't know. We'll try and give her the best life possible. That's how I feel about Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It's Old Yeller right now. Old Yeller might have seen its days, and maybe its days will be numbered eventually. But it feels like I could play this game for the rest of my life. It feels like I've played it for about a third of my entire life right now. Some people out there have played it for half of their lives. Some people were 10 years old when this game came out, and they are now 22, and they've played it for more than half of their lives. I played it for a third of my life, and I feel like I could play it for another third more and make it again. I could double up on this game. I could play this game 40 years. I could be in the retirement home. Me and my training buddies in the retirement home. We're popping pills and we're and we're playing Marvel, we're popping X Factor. So I don't know if I'm ready for it. Honestly, I would love a Marvel vs. Capcom 4, but the threat that it poses at the same time, I just don't know. You tell me, what do you think? Marvel vs. Capcom 4, do you think it's going to happen? Evo this year? And if it does, would you play it? Do you think it's a good thing? Tell me in the comments below. Likewise, speaking of Evo, of course, I'm trying to get there, so if you are inclined to make that happen for Old Sparty here, the fundraiser is nearly halfway there right now. We've nearly hit halfway. We're at £685, I think, of 1,500 to raise. So we're getting close to halfway in just 3.5 days, coming up on 4 days. It's actually ridiculous. The support of the community is absolutely insane. I'm looking to be one of those players in the crowd. I'm looking to do it primarily by winning the TNS EU qualifier. I'm looking to take that. I've got absolute confidence that I will take it, and if I do take that, again, any money I raise for myself, I'll take their ticket and then I'll give that money to the next player down who's available to go to Evo, in order to make it so that we've got one more top EU player have that opportunity to go out there and potentially see Marvel vs. Capcom 4 announced. Am I being silly here? Is this stupid? You tell me. Right, boys, it's been good. Marvel forever, baby. Peace.